All right, we're live now. So, hey everybody, my name's Sean, and welcome to Gladstone Wargamer. We have our guest today, who's a Xenos hunter, is Aiden, and we also
Hello.
have a man, who not sure if he's Grot or Orc, but he's definitely on the Xenos side. It's Myles Brute from Mackay.
That's me.
All right, so today we'll just be talking about not only the Adepticon presentation that we'll have on this weekend, but also what we want to see in 40k leading up for this year. So first off, Emperor's Hammer has been cancelled. Now, those that aren't aware, it's because of the new lockdown laws. We did try and look at other arrangements, but because of what's happened, we just have to postpone the tournament. At this stage, if there's any change, I'll definitely make sure we organise something. But otherwise, it could be up to 6 months, if not longer. So I'll keep everyone in the loop. The tournaments that we are playing for the Underworld and the Age of Sigmar, at this stage, it's up in the air what's happening. More than likely, Underworld is a very easy one. I can just cancel that. That's not going to affect anybody. But the Age of Sigmar one, I'm just keeping my eye on. If it's no change in 2 months, we'll just postpone that one as well. So that's the talk. Just basic thing is follow basic health guides that everyone's been telling you about. Self-isolate if you have to. Wash your hands and that. Keep your fluids up as well. And everyone stay safe and paint those minis. All right, so we'll get stuck into the program now. So hopefully this will work. Share my entire screen.
I have some time to get through my 200 clan rats.
That's it.
Yeah, I have to admit I've got a fairly large pile of grey shame sitting there as well, so we'll see what happens. But apparently mining's an essential service, so I'll still be going to work, unfortunately. But
well, I'm an IT tech for schools, so they haven't closed them yet. So
there we go. That's what I want. So hopefully it will work. All right. So first up, Warhammer has decided to do Twitches for free, which I think is brilliant. I don't know about your guys' opinion, but I think during this time it's a good thing to have.
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised that they're not pushing like more Twitch stuff with all their reveals anyway. Like, I get it that they want to keep like the community page as their like main source of knowledge and that, but in this day and age, I don't know why they're not streaming absolutely everything. Like,
yeah, I agree with that. I think that they've sort of been a little bit behind the eight ball and that sort of thing. Initially when you've seen Frontline Gaming doing their streaming, that sort of stuff, and they sort of have hopped on the back of that. I think that it's a smart move anyway. It gets more people engaged for nothing. So
Yeah, well, I think they just said they're going to try and do 5 episodes a week or something.
Yeah, okay.
So it'll be good to see it. I think this is a good move. I think they know that people are isolating. This is just also good coverage for them.
Yeah. I think it follows along with a move from like a lot of streamers and a lot of YouTubers and that sort of stuff that usually would provide paid content that are making available for free, especially through this period where people are doing the self-isolation, that sort of thing. So
yeah. All right, I'll let you guys talk about the prophecy of Wolf because I've just got to deal with my son.
We had a little pre-talk, I guess, about this. The Orcs having the better end of the deal, but I think I think most people are aware of that. Ragnar's a pretty sweet looking character, but
mate, as someone who's been playing Wolves since they had their third ed book, I love the Ragnar model. It is fantastic. So
yeah, absolutely, and I feel the same way about the Gaz model. And I know that, like we said previously, we were talking about it before the stream started, but people are going to have a complaint about the price and that sort of thing, especially in Australian dollars. But you know, if you're a diehard Wolves fan or a diehard Orcs fan, you're going to get the box anyway, aren't you? You know what I mean? And G-Dub knows that, but you know, they know damn well that I'm going to be shelving out for that box just to get that Gaz model early. So,
oh mate, yeah, that Gaz model is sick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, couldn't agree more.
And as we were discussing with Gaz potentially looking at being like $120 once he's released 6 months down the line, like there's no reason not to get this box, especially if you're an Orc player.
You know, you're looking at, you know, most Orc players, you can always find a space for, you know, 5 more regular knobs, and then there's always room for another, you know, 3 mega knobs. So, you know, like we said earlier off stream, you know, you're getting the characters essentially for, you know, a couple of bucks each at the moment, and then down the track you're going to be paying over $100 for Gaz alone, and then you're looking at 60 plus 70 for Ragnar. So
yeah,
it's a no-brainer, really. If you're an Orc player or a Wolves player and you want to get hold of some new characters for pretty much free, you got to do it. So,
and as much as the Space Wolf side is kind of sucky, it is nice that it is a full Infiltrator / Incursor kit, not just a Infiltrator kit, because Incursors for Wolves, while aren't great, they're not terrible either. So
you get a little bit of something, and like we were saying before, I think that they're just sort of there to buff out the price of the box to justify, you know what I mean, to make it justifiable, because realistically, you know, take or leave the rest of the box, you're doing it for the characters. So
yeah, and out of everything that's in the Primaris line, and Curses are the closest Wolfy unit that they have.
Yeah,
so
yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, you get the book as well, so you know you're not falling behind. I think you get the prophecy, the book in the back, but then I think that's got some stuff in it, mainly the data slates. But then you got to get the Psychic Awakening book.
Yeah, because that was the same for Blood of the Phoenix. It's like, here, have data slates. Yeah, but just give me the full book. I want my chapter tactics. I want my stratagems. Like,
but you know, I'm happy to see Gaz. I'll guarantee he'll be built and painted in a weekend, and I'll have him on the board the week after. So
I wish you luck for that.
Yeah, it's a big boy, so I'll try my best.
Oh, well, it sounds like you guys had a good talk while I was out with my son. So, all right, we'll go on to the reveals incoming for this week.
Right.
So, for those that don't know, midnight here in Australia for the Adepticon previews. So, I won't be up for that, but I'm sure someone will be.
I will be sleeping.
Yeah,
like a sane person.
I might just wake up to the Warhammer community site letting me know what's going on.
Yeah, that's my general plan.
And then the one thing that for next week's preview is Zotally Awesome. For those of those.
It's a big crocodile looking dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look,
as well. Yeah.
I like it that they're doing like the Zod and all these like obscure models from like Rogue Trader days and that, but and I guess like that's the beauty of Black Fortress, is that they can put out these 1 or 2 models and, you know, have them done and be like, hey guys, look at this cool thing. But where's the Xenos love, like, besides Gaz?
Yeah, I don't really have too much of an opinion on these. I guess like I've never really played Blackstone Fortress, but I can appreciate the minis they put out. Some of them, the sculpts are unreal. So I think for me, if they keep churning out cool sculpts and people can potentially do some conversions, and you know, I think it's cool. I reckon that it's a weird model. Don't get me wrong, but we are talking about, you know, war in the 41st, you know, 40,000 million or so.
Well, I think because also the setting of Blackstone Fortress, it's a monument from the past. So they're like, well, let's bring some of these things that have been, I guess, frozen in time and they're being released. So
yeah,
good to see. We've also got Middle Earth. I don't know how big that is in Mackay, but it is reasonable.
Yeah, there's a few guys that have been picking up bits and pieces. I think now that they're releasing the models and they're sort of, you know, getting a few more decent sculpts. I know that like way back when I very first started playing 40k, there was, or you could get the newspaper and they had some of the Middle Earth models in there, and that was sort of where I did sort of stopped, paying attention. But there's a few guys in Mackay that play it on and off with bits and pieces. So I don't personally, but so.
Yeah, there was a bit of a scene here for Lord of the Rings, but I think Legion's kind of taken over from it because there was a lot of the guys who are also playing Legion. So
well, it's sort of the same sort of niche,
Yeah.
I think a lot of them, because of what's happened with the tournaments cancelling.
Yeah.
So they've gone, well, we'll just play Legion, and now unfortunately we can't even go to the clubhouse anymore. So
yeah,
this is why you have tables at home.
That's it. That's exactly it. All right, so we'll get on to our main event now, eh?
Yep.
All right, so we know there's rumours that 9th edition might be coming this year. I would like to see that it is, because I think a Psychic Awakening is building up. So, and we've got these leaks that are coming. So I don't know if you've seen the potato photos of new jet bikes for the Primaris and all that.
Yeah, I think there's. Yeah, I can see a similar, like if we think about 7th edition and how like they had all the formations and that sort of thing, you can sort of see like a similar shift towards the end of 7th, where everything sort of got really sort of complicated, and then all of a sudden they just put a stop to it, and then they boxed it all up into 8th and sent us off into 8th. You know what I mean? So you can sort of see that there might be a similar shift happening. I personally, I'm pretty happy with the way that they're going about it. If they decide that they're going to box it all up and make the product, a little bit more streamlined again, and then sort of send it off. But at the same time, we're also looking at, constant FAQs that are sort of keeping the game sort of level-headed in a way, like we were talking about off stream is, that the Iron Hands nerf that sort of leveled the playing field there a little bit. So, I think 40K is in a pretty good spot at the moment where, because they can make those constant adjustments, we don't really need a whole nother rule set. You know what I mean? The 8th edition as a whole is a good set, and then we can tweak it and modify as we go along. And to me, I think that's a good place for it. But
honestly, thinking about it, like, because we still have we've got the Mechanicus and Knights and Chaos Knights and Dark Mechanicus / Demons coming out next, and then there's the War of the Spider, which is Emperor's Children, who already have a book, and then whatever's else going to be with them, and then somewhere in there they still got to fit Necrons and Death Watch and Death Guard in there somewhere as well. Like, you're looking at probably 6 more months of Psychic Awakening. And because of that, like, I don't expect them to go, okay, Psychic Awakening's done, here's 9th ed, and enjoy like having to pay $80-$90 for our Psychic Awakening books that you now can't use because we're in a new edition. I think what is probably more likely that's going to happen is that there will be a new rulebook, but it will just be all the FAQs and that put into one book. So I'm not having to lug around a freaking like as an Imperial player, I'm not having to lug around a freaking library every time I go to a tournament. I can just take one rulebook again.
Yeah, which is what I mean by sort of streamlining the package and then sending us off. You know what I mean? Like an 8.1, 8th edition 0.1 sort of situation.
You're more like just like a soft.
Oh, they can like. They can do another hardcover if they want, and like throw more lore in that if they want. I don't care. Like, but the point that I'm getting at is that we've got something like. So if I'm going to a tournament now, right, and say that I'm playing Deathwatch, right, I got to take a rule book. I got to take the rulebook FAQs. I got to take the rulebook. The core rulebook developer commentary, because there is stuff in the developer commentary that isn't really explained in either the FAQ or the rulebook, right? I then have to take my codex, right? I then have to take my codex's FAQ. I have to take chapter approve. I have to take chapter approve's FAQ. So I'm up to 7 things that I'm taking now before I start adding allies in, Like,
Absolutely.
that's a freaking library that and that's not including lists or play or tournament packs or anything like that. Like, I'm lugging more paper around than I am models. Like,
I agree. I think that's sort of what we're going to go towards is a streamlined package. You know, where they'll bring all those FAQs and that into one sort of book. You know, they'll smash up all the match play rules that they've added and that sort of thing into one book, and say, here you go. You know, we'll reset essentially the FAQ so that you're not looking through 20 pages FAQ per army. It's just look at your book, and then you might have and go through the same cycle we've seen already where. They update the armies as we go through a 12-18 month period, and then
Yeah, I think we're into the 9th edition of codexes. I mean, you just have to look at Marines and Sisters.
Yeah.
But a 9th edition rule set, I don't think so. I think it'll be 8.5.
Yeah. I think that I'm of a similar opinion that we'll just find ourselves in a everything streamlined. Come into an 8.5 situation where we're still playing the same game, same rules, but it's just there's less to look through. We're finding our stuff in the one place rather than, like you said, several places. So,
like I have a perfect example. I went to a tournament in Bundy end of last year, and I had to explain to him that you could consolidate into enemy units from combat, right? You could charge something, kill it, and consolidate into something else. And like, no, you can't. I'm like, I know you can, but and then like I even had the TO because the TO didn't know that you could do it as well. So I was teaching the TO and the other player. I'm like, you can, and it took me like half an hour to find out where the specific wording was to actually show them that, because there's like so many different FAQs and stuff like that at this point. So
I agree.
So what you're saying is, if it's not a 9th edition, you want an 8.5, and if they do go, well, this is 9th edition, you just want them to tidy all the rules up and just streamline it, make it smoother, make it easier to find all those rules that people, similar to, as you know, Aiden, is what Age of Sigma did. They didn't really do a hard relaunch. They just went, here's all the things we've learned from AOS 1, and we've fixed it and put it in an AOS 2.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know how many people here play Drop Zone, but Drop Zone did 1.1 and now is doing 2.1, which is essentially just the core rules tidied up and made nice, and then we'll probably sit on them for the next 6 years or whatever until we get third at Drop Zone. Like that's all I want, especially when like I have Necrons, Dark Elder, Wolves, and Deathwatch, so I don't want to have to like essentially be told that $400 worth of Psychic Awakening books is now useless in 6 months. Like that's not cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely the point that where a lot of people find themselves at, is that we don't want to end up where like at the end of 7th, when all the formation stuff became made redundant, then we just got sort of stuck with the indexes. But I think that since we got handed those indexes and they said, right, this is 8th edition, they've been pretty consistent in, updating their rules and FAQing things. And they haven't just sort of said, here's the edition, see you in 12 months or 18 months. They've been pretty open and, like reading, when the Iron Hands come out and they were, beating everybody to a pulp. They sat back and they waited for the right amount of feedback, and then they sort of went, righto, this is what we're going to do with the feedback we've been provided and the statistics and rankings from the tournament. So I think that we're in an age now where GW is a little bit more in touch with the people that are playing the game. So I think that we will see that they'll know that people don't want to see a whole new set of rules. I think that they'll know that they've gone, righto, we've gone long enough with enough FAQs and enough updates. Let's all just sort of, like we said, streamline it and give everybody 8.5. I'd be happy with that, because like you said, you're trying to find a similar rule, and because the match play is different to the casual rules, then blah blah blah. You're looking for different stuff everywhere, and there's FAQs all over the place. So yeah, I'd be pretty happy if they just streamlined the whole thing. Said, right, here's a streamlined set of the rules, everything's in there, and then we'll FAQ as required, like we did when 8th edition first came out.
And the edition itself isn't broken. The overpowered things right now is based in the codexes, which we will see codexes come in line as the next wave of codexes come around, whenever that will happen. So,
and you're looking at a situation where we all remember when they brought out the Riptides, and there was like the Triptide first come out, and there was no way for GW to fix that until they released a new codex or a new edition. Whereas now, if that was to occur, we've seen it happen with the Iron Hands. They were just doing what they were doing, and then all of a sudden, GW was like, righto, no more of that, knocked it on the head, and we're back to sort of, a bit more of a level playing field. So,
which is good, because last year, I think it was the biggest community request was even more balance updates than just in Chapter Approve and the 2 big FAQs, which they've already proven that they're doing with the Space Marine. I would say scalpel nerf rather than the blunt force hammer that I was kind of expecting them to come down with. So I was really impressed with the Space Marine nerf.
Yeah, I think it was a level-headed approach to what needed to happen. They didn't go in, no holes barred and just completely nerf the crap out of them. They took the top off and then went, righto, everybody else is going to catch up in the next couple of months, so let's all just hold our horses. So.
Yeah. Really impressed with the Marine nerf. Impressed that they're taking our feedback into consideration and doing more balancing. Like at that point, like if you're already doing that much balancing, like, do you really need a new edition to throw everything else out of shift? Like,
no, that's right. Oh, yeah, completely right.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, because I know from earlier on, before the Cycle Awakening, we had such a big, huge gap that 40k there wasn't much happening with 40k. I mean, I know they were trying to get those codexes out, but they were taking so long and all that.
Oh, that's because it was Sigma's turn. Like, we had a year and a half of straight 40k. Like, the Sigma guys were complaining because I was looking at rats and that at that point in time. They're like, "Oh, look, another 40k launch." And I understand why Games Workshop did it, because 40k is where their money's still at. But it was Sigma's turn. Like, you guys got like 10 army books or something like that last year, and that was in half a year. Like, I'm not going to say that they're all great quality, Sylvaneth, but like 10 books in like 6 or 7 months, whatever they did, is phenomenal. So,
and this Cycle Awakening sort of has given a bit of breath, new life to 40k.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Outside of Blood of the Phoenix, which was kind of why does this exist after comparing it to the other ones? Like,
yeah. I think that's definitely the case. You've got for me, looking at Psychic Awakening, watching all the leaks as an Orc player, I've sort of not had my fun with playing Orcs a particular way up to this point, but you sort of get to the okay, I've gone through the amount of builds that I can make, and then the Psychic Awakening comes out and there's just lists of different ways that I can play my Orcs. I think that's definitely the breath of life you just said that Psychic Awakening brings, opposed to your base codex, because we've gone indexes and then everybody gets their codex, and then we're starting to come into that 9th edition codex section, and then they get these little bits of these little extras that make give you a little bit more flavor and a little bit more ins and outs of your army.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So because we know that there's the Adepticon previews coming out, what are you guys hoping to see? I mean, we're going to see Primaris Lieutenants, so we won't go too much into that.
Leave that out.
Yeah, but what are you hoping to see?
you want to go first?
No, you go, man. You're right.
All right. So I'm expecting we will get the if not army versus army for Psychic Awakening, at the very least name drops for the last 4 or 5 books of Psychic Awakening, whatever they're going to do, or at least the next 2. However many armies they want to cram into a single book. I think that we will probably see new Primaris stuff because they got to push their poster boys, and there was that leak of the Primaris bikes and land speeders, and fleshing out the mini marines are dead, right? They're in your books, right? They will probably still always be in the books for 5 or 6 years. You might end up just with mini marine vets at the end of the day, and everything else being Primaris. But so there's more Primaris coming. Mini marines are dead at the end.
Take them out back and shoot them.
Or you know, if you don't want to rebuy all your Primaris, just start proxying your mini marines as Primaris. I hope that, because it's been kind of lackluster, I would say, in terms of announcements and that for this year so far. So I'm hoping for Sigma releases. I'm hoping for, honestly, newer Lord of the Rings models, because that range definitely needs an update with considering how popular it is becoming, and the life being breathed back into it. So
I guess if I was honestly going to say something that I was looking forward to, I think that with those leaks of the Fabius Bile model, I think that'd be cool if they did release or previewed him there. But I'm of the same opinion. I think that 40k has been getting sort of heavily pushed a fair bit lately, and even though I do have a small AOS army, I don't play a lot. I would like to see them get a little bit, and then sort of go back into some 40k stuff mid to end of the year. But yeah, if they could even just sort of maybe say, hey, right, the next Psychic Awakening is going to be Necrons, for example, and then we sort of have an idea of where they're at, and then sort of go, right, here's a bunch of AOS stuff after. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I'd be interested to see the Fabius Bile model, because I've liked the model from way back, and it'll be interesting to see what they do, because the new sculpts are just out of control. So
well, what's going to be interesting is if it's going to be a Emperor's Children Codex drop.
Yeah, because War the Spider has Fabius Bile in there, so whether or not they'll go, righto, that's a mini codex for the Emperor's Children, or if they want to do a proper flesh out one.
Well, see, Emperor's the weird thing is Emperor's Children already got stuff in the Faith and Fury one, whatever the Vanilla Marine one was. So it's interesting to see them essentially get 2 books, which kind of leads me to the suspicion that maybe there is an Emperor's Children book coming, and at that point, how far is Demon Primarch Fulgrim away?
I think Chaos have always been a little bit messy, and it would be nice to see them sort of get a streamline. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but they've always been messy, and they've sort of always been you could play them thematically, but then you sort of couldn't really lean into one too much, otherwise you'd get punked. And then I think that it'd be nice to see them sort of go, righto, this is a book for Emperor's Children that makes Emperor's Children good, not a book that encompasses half of all of them and crammed into one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, and because Primarchs were brought up, do you think we'll finally see any new Primarchs drop?
When the Death Guard was 3rd book for 8th, so it's 2 years old at this point.
Yeah,
right.
2 years.
So Mortarion was the last Primarch. We were told that we were going to get a Primarch here. That obviously hasn't happened. It's gone Magnus, Girlyman, and then Mortarion. So, I mean, Primarchs, they said that Primarchs, they don't want to release Primarchs by themselves. They want to support them with an army or that when they come out, which was the reason why I was a big believer that Russ was coming out with the Space Wolf book, because it was so delayed compared to every other book, and then I was just like, hey, you guys just lost because we feel like making you super wait. So I mean, I would like to see more Primarchs. I think the story and that's kind of getting to a standstill of, especially if we get a third Demon Primarch, how many Demon Primarchs can Girly Man fight off by himself before it becomes even more ridiculous than it already is?
Yeah.
But I'm a Space Wolf fan. I just want my boy Russ back. Okay, they've had what 2-ish years now with Marathi being out to test how she's going. Give me 2-form Russ, right? Give me Odin Russ and Wolfen Russ, and yeah, you can have my $200 for those 2 models done instantly, pre-ordered.
Done. Yeah, I'm not, as an orc player, I just want Gaz. I've got him, so you guys can all get bent.
Because that's the other thing I would like to see is a bit more Xenos love. Because, I mean, like, I know the orcs, they've got some old models. Outer, who I've got to admit, I'm slowly building an Outer army. And I'd like some more love in that department too. I think they just...
The Xenos are just a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And it's kind of, honestly, the biggest shame that I've seen from Games Workshop in the last year, 6 months to a year, is the returning to the self-fulfilling prophecy of Marine sell, let's make more Marine stuff, instead of going, hey, the Xenos need some love. Yeah, and when they do give Xenos the love, they charge you $100 for 5 or $90 for 5 Howling Banshees, and go, well, why aren't people buying Xenos? And it's because $100 for what? Howling Banshees like 16 points. So $100 for like 70 points worth of models is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Let's talk about mech guns for a second. Mech guns are like, if you take the most expensive gun, it's like they're not even 30 points or something, and they're like an $80 model.
Yeah,
for one model, and you get 4 Gretchen in there or something like that.
Yeah,
I think AOS has had a really good shift in, like, new sculpts and that sort of stuff. You look at their whole range now, and back when fantasy was a thing, I liked the concept of the game, but I just could not get behind the models mentally. You know what I mean? You build an army because you like the look of the models and you get invested in the army, whereas I just couldn't do that. Whereas now pretty much all the AOS armies have got new models. So I think that if they did the same thing, well, obviously Marines are always going to have their new stuff all the time, new stuff. But if they just had steady, righto, here's a Marine thing, here's a Xenos thing, here's a Marine thing, you can send all the Marine stuff you like, I don't mind. But yeah, if they could update a couple of the kits, it'd be nice. I don't really mind for Orcs though, because we've had, we got the Knobs box. It's a little bit old now, but I bought one the other day, and it still holds up. It's still good. The Mega Knobs are still good. Pretty much when the Gorkanaut came out and we got the mech guns, they were pretty much the only things that we got. A few new things then, but they were everything in the Orc range now is pretty good. But Eldar, for sure, you're looking at Eldar, they got some pretty old sculpts. They could definitely do with a revamp, so.
Boys need an update, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're
like the issue with updating the boys is like not that Clan Rats need it because they did get a new box. Is updating Clan Rats. No, I don't want to have to go out and buy another 200 Clan Rats. Thank you.
That's right. I'm not going to be doing that. I will say though, I did buy a whole giant bag of bases to rebase all my Orc boys. It hasn't occurred yet, but it will happen eventually. All 150 of them, but
weak numbers, mate. Weak numbers.
That's enough for me because I like to run mechanized Orcs. So 150 boys is enough for me. But yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Is they're sort of going, right, are people really going to buy 150 more Orc boys or whatever? I don't hate the Orc boy kit. Like, I like the shooter boys personally. You can buy Attack of Black Reach boys for days on end on eBay. So I like the shooter boys. I reckon they're a nice looking model, simple enough. You remove them so quick that you don't even matter what they look like half the time.
Oh, it sounds like Skaven.
That's why they don't care about the sculpts, man, because they're like, no, these get pulled off the board in you just need like a dustpan and broom. So that's how it works.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, because I figure with what's happening, they'll probably show some more Blackstone Fortress. Not sure.
There'll be a little bit of everything for all their specialist games. Like, I would be surprised if they don't announce another faction for Aeronautica.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true too.
I know that you're probably going to see Giants for AOS, and probably the rest of the um, new reborn High Elves. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head.
Pointy elves.
Yeah,
I
the
don't care
pointy
what they're
elves.
actually called. They're going to be pointy elves. Like,
Yeah.
they made their own joke. Okay,
Yeah.
look,
I'll have
it's
to admit,
pointy
I
elves.
was interested into them, but I've suddenly lost interest. But I'm waiting for the Giants. The Giants might be my destruction army.
Look, I just want to get the pointy elf on the stone and do the 4chan meme of putting it on the lizard temple on top. Oh, sorry, putting it on the sea turtle, the flying space turtle,
Yeah.
and putting the lizard temple on top of that, and then putting the wizard on top of a Balwin vortex. So it's like a meter tall. Like
Yeah,
that just seems great.
yeah.
I'll pay
Big
money
horn
for that.
fella. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably one last faction for Beastgrave, which I know a mate of mine's hoping it's Seraphim, which I think would be good.
Oh, can we see some new source kits? Like, I know it's probably not going to happen because the Lizard book's already out, but can we see like new source warriors, please?
I was really disappointed with that release. Actually, I
The
was hoping
the
it was going to be a Slaves to Darkness to just give them new warriors.
the art for all the Saurus is so cool, and then you see the model, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you need an update, friend.
Yeah. There has been even rumors of Battlefleet Gothica too.
I don't know where I read it. I think it was obviously pinch of salt and whatnot, but I heard that Battlefleet Gothic was still years off. Like,
Yeah. We're going to have a bit more about Warhammer Fantasy as well. Apparently, they're going
old
to
world,
talk a little bit about it.
yeah.
So, old world, if you.
Uh, I will be interested in Old World when it comes out. Until that point, I'm not interested. And if I can't play my Skaven, then I'm not interested. So,
yeah.
look, I'm just a rat at heart, okay? I'm a Saturday morning cartoon villain. I love having World War II weapons when everyone else is running around with a sword, okay? I'm just evil. And then blowing myself up and killing myself more than they kill me. So, it's a fun time.
Yeah, all right, that's good. So yeah, so I don't know what else else you're hoping to see released, or they preview. Is there anything that you guys go, oh, I would like them to do this, or what would you like to be seen or shown?
I think I'm just more interested to see what they have to say about obviously the whole situation that's going on at the moment. Just interested to see how they approach that because obviously we're looking at a situation where a lot of companies are looking at losing a lot of money like stock wise and that sort of thing. So it'd be interesting to see how they approach it and whether that means that until this whole thing sort of sorts itself out, whether they wind down some of their releases or whatever, because obviously they can't go no holds barred when you're talking about a massive percentage of every country's population is potentially out of work and self-isolated. You can't they don't have the income to buy models and that sort of stuff. And I think that we may see, and it's not model related, but I think we may see some communication in regards to that to see where they're at financially and how they're going to approach the next 6 months of potentially losing a large percentage of their buyer base, their customer base.
Well, what's Britain like in the current lockdown and that? Because I assume that most of the like model artists and that are still Britain based. So
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean they're doing stuff in CAD and that, so they can work from home. But
Yeah, one of my mates, he put on his Instagram the other day. He lives over there, and this usually the street that he usually lives on that's usually quite busy is just dead. You know what I mean? Like people can still like go out to their brick and mortar stores and purchase the models. Like I don't think the availability of the models is the issue. I think the issue is the finance. The finances behind it, churning it around. Because people that would usually go to the shop and buy 3 paints and spend $20, they all of a sudden go, well, maybe that $20 is better spent on a single roll of toilet paper than, So I think that's where we're at. I think that they'll say something about that. If they do a couple of cool releases, it'll be cool. I seen that there was that leak around. It looked like an orc axe or something like that. It'd be interesting to see if there was a new mech or something that came out, but I don't think we'll see we won't see anything too massive. I think we'll see a whole bunch of little sort of tidbits in a way, and then a little bit of communication about that. See, because everybody seems to be addressing it in their own way, so I'm assuming they'll say something about it.
Yeah, because all their manufacturing, I believe, is still done in the UK. It's just their books and cards and everything they do in China.
I believe the endless spells and that are China based as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So the less detailed kits are China based. So like terrain and endless spells, I believe, is China based now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So now it'll be interesting if they bring it up and whether or not they go, look, we're aware of this. That's why we're just going to just continue as normal, or we're just going to go, righto, we're just going to just slow down our release. So we'll only do a couple, so like maybe 2 or 3 figs or something a week instead of do a normal 5 or 6 we had planned.
My biggest thing that I would probably like to see from them is an announcement to a more with the 9th ed 40K rumor is a move to a more digital format. So to help prevent the library of paper that will inevitably come up over the next 3 or 4 years after they've consolidated. I think it's time that Malifaux does a fantastic app that gets updated on the day with all rules and stuff like that for all their models. All the FAQs get done straight away. There's no reason why Games Workshop, with the oodles of money that they have compared to Weird Games, can't do a app like that. I mean, I think Azir was the fantasy, the Sigma app was a nice little testing bed for it. I just hope that when they do shift to that, well, books aren't going to stop, because I know I personally prefer having a codex in my hand rather than looking it up on my small phone. But they make it usable. Like if I buy a codex, I should get a digital version for free on their app, or charge me a subscription fee, charge me $20 a year, and I get access to every codex and the rulebook and every FAQ.
If you buy a book, you get a code that now enables you to download the book on your app. Similar situation. Yeah, I don't see an issue with that, and I think that would be good because like we were saying about the Twitch streaming at the very start. It'd be nice to see GW come a little bit, closer into the future as far as technology is concerned. It'd be nice. They punch out a bunch of mobile games, that sort of stuff. So surely they have the ability to put their books in app form and sort of update that rather than
Oh, they have oodles of money. There's no reason why they can't do it. And for the tournament scene, a $20 a year subscription fee to access to everything would be absolutely phenomenal. And if you don't want it to be everything, strip the lore sections of it out, because us tournament players don't want the lore sections if we're paying a $20 sub fee. Just give us the rules and let us be competitive. And that way you can still sell your books at your $80 to $100 that you want to sell them for, and you keep everyone happy, and you improve the tournament scene, which I think they realized after 7th and we're a model company with a game system for some reason, that the tournament scenes and that is a big pusher for them.
It's huge. It's a massive part of it. And like you just said, towards the end of 7th, it just wasn't happening. It just, you had the guys running the ITC pretty much had their own set of rules for 40K that were, making it playable.
Oh yeah,
So,
I remember playing community comp since like
Yeah.
end of 6 through all of 7 to make it
that
fun.
was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So
So someone mentioned like to see Forge World, some new releases from there and books.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
look, Forge World just does what Forge World wants these days.
I don't really have a solid opinion on Forge World. I think that their prices are exorbitant. They don't really, their rules take too long to come in line with the way where 40k is at. I had to wait. I played my Grot Tanks for 6 months with old shit rules before I finally got an update.
Oh,
You know,
mate,
it,
the very first chapter approved, all the Space Marine super heavy tanks went up by like double, and
yeah,
then the guard book came out and made all the guard main turret weapons of those tanks the same as the Marines ones because they got double shots, and the Marine ones are still like almost 3 times the point of a Baneblade, like of the equivalent, like for. Forge World like has been doing nothing since 8th came out. Like they've put out some Horus Heresy stuff and they've, released some models and discontinued more than they fricking put out over the last 2 years. Like Forge World just does what Forge World does these days.
yeah. They sometimes put out a cool model and that, people get it, whatever. I don't really. Forge World's neither here nor there for me.
Yep.
So,
So pretty much no expectations from them.
No,
yeah,
like
zero.
I expect to see insert random Legion, new Dreadnought, or Terminators. I mean, those new Dark Angel
Yeah.
Terminators look freaking pimp. But new models. As for rules, we're actually making releasing a book or, God forbid, Dark Mechanicus or something interesting like that for 40k. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, because there's a bloke I know, he wants Dark Mechanicus to finally come into 40k. And he said, "Oh, if I bring Mechanicus army, can I call it 40k to your tournament next time?" I'm like, "Yeah, as long as you're using the Mechanicus rules."
Yeah.
I don't have a problem because he's gone. I'm going to, paint them up and make them, chaosy and all that.
Look, I would love Dark Mechanicus, like more because the demon vehicles are the most interesting thing in Chaos to me. Like so many awesome designs come out of all the demon vehicles. Like just an army of that would be absolutely pimp. So Dark Mechanicus might actually turn me into a Chaos player when it comes out, but it needs to come out and exist first. So
Yeah.
and not be Chaos Dwarves rate of Forge World does it and kind of supports it, but yeah, fuck
Doesn't
them.
really, and then
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot more, that's going to happen before we see a Dark Mechanicus army. And like you said, it'll probably have rules for 30k, and then you might get like one unit that's transferable to 40k, and then in 6 months' time you'll have one more unit, and then it takes 4 years before you get a full army.
I think Codex Crute is more likely than Dark Mechanicus, and Codex Crute would be freaking pimp. Like,
yeah, you'd sell a lot of Crute, I reckon. I reckon you'd sell a free Crute.
With some fruit and put some Vespin in there too, just to.
Yeah. Have it as like auxiliaries, so you expand the Tau keyword, so Tau can start souping.
Yeah.
But yeah, Codex Crude. I reckon they're sitting on the gold mine of Codex Crude, and when like after Corona leaves and that, and to reboost all their stocks and that, they'll be like, Codex Crude, here's the Xenos you've been wanting. Boom! And then Crude are just sold out for like the next 12 months. Like no one can get Crude ever.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
So we know what the third Psychic Awakening book's going to be then.
Entirely true.
Yeah. I'll maybe go against the Death Guard just to make it suit, attack the jungle.
And then you have Crude eating the Death Guard and getting all the Death Guard powers, because that'd just be what Crude do. And now you have all funky Crude and an entire Crude army. Done. Easy. Games Workshop, hire me.
Yeah. So we know that the next Cycle of Awakenings was War of the Machines. That's your Knights, Chaos Knights, and was it Mechanicus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we there was all the Mechanicus stuff revealed 6 months ago or something at this point. The stupid Da Vinci Flyer, the awesome mechanical horse Outriders, and the actually I really like them. The Mechanicus flappy wing jump dudes. They look cool. The
Yeah,
Da
I
Vinci
reckon
Flyer,
they're thematically exactly what Mechanicus has. They're that sort of steampunk, like you said, Da Vinci Code style thing. Like I think it's cool. Those Outriders, the guys on the mechanical horses, they look friggin' cool.
I'm waiting on the size of the horses so I can buy a box and then go use them as use the horses in place of like the normal horses in my Malifaux models because the steampunk horses are just freaking awesome.
Yeah, I've got a small, probably like 1,200 points of AdMech that I had all, I had this grand plan to paint them up, and then what I'd bought was shit, and I couldn't see enough diversity in the range to bother sinking any more money. And then when I seen those, I was like, yeah, that's something that I could I'd get behind.
Sigh, unzip wallet.
Yeah. Yeah, and then after Gaz has come out of there, I'm like, oh, there's nothing left.
Yeah. So yeah, I reckon that the AdMech reveal that was done early in the year, they'll come out. So we know there's War of the Spiders. There's the Emperor's Children will be in it. What do you think they'll go up against? This is tinfoil hat time. What do you want?
Well, what do we got?
So we got
This guy.
Oh, I don't know, man.
What do we got left besides the straight edition of another codex? We have Necrons, we have Deathwatch, we have Sisters because they have said Sisters are going to get their own Psychic Awakening.
That'd be pretty interesting. Actually, Sisters might be, especially because they're moving all these new models in now. Like they're getting a bunch of updates. Probably wouldn't be bad timing. But you can slot Necrons in anywhere really. Like lands on random planet, awakens X. Dynasty. So.
Lands on random planet, uncovers Tomb World, shit and shoes. Necron
exactly. You pretty much you don't need much lore or background to dump Necrons against whoever you want. So, yeah, I could see either one of those two would be reasonable.
And Custodes, and they have mentioned that Sisters of Silence getting rolled in with Custodes, which they should have freaking been done to begin with.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing that I could see maybe happening in Psychic Awakening that they haven't announced yet would be like a consolidation of the White Dwarves of Assassins and Inquisitors into a Psychic Awakening, kind of like what they did with Ynnari, and just have it as Imperial agents.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking with the War of the Spider, because
which should be in the Deathwatch Psychic Awakening, just so I don't have to buy a 5th Psychic Awakening.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting if they did drill Deathwatch in with that. But don't the Necrons have a little bit to do with the Spider?
There's Spider references and that throughout like Necrons, and I think there's Eldar stuff and stuff like that. Like I think my original guess was Harlequins. Oh, we haven't had Harlequins yet either. Was Harlequins versus Necrons on the initial announcement of it, but
yeah, I forgot about the Harlequin. So there's a good chance it could be,
And while Ynnari was in Psychic Awakening, it was kind of just a reprint of the book, so they might go here. Ynnari can have a whole Psychic Awakening as well, so you have to buy 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they like besides like the codexes are caught up at this point, right? So from a 40k perspective, we are waiting for either a new codex or a Psychic Awakening. So, I mean, if they're not announcing new codexes, then it's got to be stuff going into Psychic Awakening. So,
so say we've got the Psychic Awakening done. What books do you reckon needs, or what factions need a new codex?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty similar conversation the other day, and one of the guys, he plays Thousand Suns, and we were talking about the points cost and that sort of thing, and he was telling me how much his Marines cost and that sort of thing compared to Primaris and that sort of thing. And I think that there are some books that are a little bit overcosted, but I think that honestly you could open up Battlescribe at any point and open up X army and make a list that would win a competitive game. I think that we're at a position where all the sort of codexes, some are a little bit better than others, but overall every army has a build that can win competitively, and if that's your flavor, then that's the build that you'll sort of have to go with. And with the Psychic Awakening, that gives you a little bit more flexibility. But if you're into competitive play, you're probably looking at like 1, 2, or 3 builds for each army anyway. So if you're looking at competitive play, you're not I can make 1,000 fluffy orc lists, but then none of them are going to be as good as the top 3 orc competitive lists. You know what I mean? So I think if you really wanted to, you could make a competitive list out of any army, whether it's spammy or not. So I think we're at a good place, and that the Psychic Awakening for each army, like I said, gives that a bit more flexibility. So
and I think that's a testament to how well they've done with 8th. Like, I've been like, granted, I was a young lad when I started playing 40k in 4th, but I would say 40k is the most balanced it has been ever.
Yeah, and I think that's purely because of the relationship that GW has built with the people actually playing the game. So they know what the casual players want, and they also know what the competitive players want to an extent, and they're listening, like we were saying before about the Iron Hands nerf, in that they saw what was happening. They waited until they got the right amount of feedback, the right amount of tournament rankings. And they went, righto, this is the measured approach to take, rather than just sort of coming in, swinging the axe and trying to just lop the head off, anything that's overpowered. They take a measured approach, and they do the right. They do it once, and they sort of do it right when they do the FAQs and that sort of thing. So with the balancing act, sure, some things come out and they're a little bit overpowered, but then they can make those nice little tweaks, and then it brings it back into line again. So,
which is another reason why I think we are like more likely for an 8.5 than a 9th, because
absolutely.
of just of the like the don't get me wrong, there's been issues like Marines just recently, and Knights were dominant for like 12 months at one point there, but if this was 6th or 7th, Knights would have been dominant for 3 to 4 years while we waited for a new edition.
Exactly
So
right. It's the same situation we were talking about before about the Tau situation we had, where you just had this Tau list that was just unbeatable until GW brought out something that was even more unbeatable, rather than leveling that Tau list and making it in line with what else. So yeah, the edition we have now is just it's much more level playing field, because they can make those tweaks on the run. We're not waiting that 2 3 years for a new edition, or like ages and ages for a new codex. So yeah, I think that being able to make the tweaks and then add little bits and pieces for each army along the way is the right way to go. And then you've got the casual players that sort of go, oh, but now I've got to buy, I've got to buy this book and I've got to buy that book. I'm like, well, if you want to play casually, you only really have to buy the codex, and then you can just play casual games. You know what I mean? If you
go play with power, and you have fun rolling dice and having a beer and playing with your friends.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly right. You don't have to go out and buy Psychic Awakening and all the other extras to get that stratagem or whatever that you need to have in that book. So you you don't have to go out and do that. If you want to play casually, you can just pick up your 8th edition codex, go and play a game. Happy days.
Yeah. The only issue is with Psychic Awakening, that is the barrier of entry for a casual player to look to not becoming casual, right? So like a casual player going, okay, let's go to my first tournament. Now that's an issue, right? Because now it's your casual army won't do well, and you'll probably get ruffle stomped, and you probably won't want to go back after that. B, now you have a codex and a library now to carry around to your tournament. You need, among other things, you've got to adjust to a tournament setting. You need to know your rules. You need to know how to play on a time limit. There's I love bringing new people into the tournament scene, because I think tournaments are a lot of fun, even if you're not going there to win. Traveling to go play guys that you've never played before and have a laugh, and even if it's like I traveled down to Brisbane earlier, and the games that I had were either super close and really competitive, or they were a stomp one way or the other, but the opponent and I, we were still laughing and having a great time. Like that's the joy of a tournament. And I think it's really hard to bring the super casuals of 40k and Sigmar into that come to a tournament and have fun mentality. Like it doesn't matter where you place.
I think that's because they sort of tar all tournament players with the same brush, is that they're all, like a bunch of meta playing dickheads that just want to, win at all costs, which isn't the case, because if anybody knows me, I win probably one game every tournament I go to. I just, and then if I lose, the moment I lose a game, I just start drinking beers. So that's how I like to play my tournaments. I go because I like to learn more about the game and that sort of thing. It's not just a no holds barred, let's win it at any cost sort of situation. So, I think that the being able to, sort of like maybe like a soft introduction to sort of some, match play is important, but it's hard because, you've got people that just go, right, let's play a competitive game. Whereas and then they bring their competitive list. If I was to play against somebody that wants to try and learn to get better, I'd maybe just take my casual list and dial it up by, 2 or 3, and then just slowly introduce them and say to them, hey, listen, this is, if you need to get better and better, and it just takes time. You got to play more games, and it's time in the game that's going to give you the experience, So I remember the first tournament that I went to, it was in Mackay, and I'd been painting and sort of playing casual with my mates for a fair few years, but I'd never been to a tournament. I was all pumped, and I was like, "Yep, sweet, my Blood Angels are going to do really good. I've done this and I've done that," and I just went there. I was absolutely creamed for 5 games for 2 days, but it didn't make me not want to go back. It made me think, righto, what can I do next time to make it better? So it depends on your mindset going into it as well, I think.
I think what like a casual player looking to get into the tournament scene really needs is a competitive player to take a casual list and go, okay, let's play a game, and I'm going to beat you around the head with rules that you didn't know existed and tricks that you didn't know existed, looking at you combat phase, until you start getting a more solid grasp on the rules and your book, and then you can start looking at adapting your army to be competitive, which is another big hurdle, because that's a lot of money as well. Because
you've got to find the right competitive player to show people how to play competitively, and that's exactly what you're saying. Take a non-competitive list, but use it competitively and teach them the ropes, So that's not always easy, because there's a lot of people that don't know how to do that. They're good players, but they're not good teachers. So.
And personality conflicts and that, no one likes losing, right? Especially if you go, well, he just beat me soundly with, running 100 blood claws across the table. How am I going to beat someone running an actual list, right? But you've got to dedicate yourself to it if you want to become a competitive player. It's not a short road, but
it takes a long time. Like you've got to be involved in like a lot of games. But anybody that knows me and plays against me, I'm more likely to tell you what to do to better your situation than I am to just stand back and let you screw yourself. So, I think that's those are the sort of things that make people better, and the things that made me a better player. Although I'm not saying I'm overly great, the things that made me a better player is being beaten and then having the people that I've been beaten by explain to me what
what you did wrong
and what I did wrong, and then also having them turn around at the same time and go, hey, listen, you could have done nothing different and I still would have beaten you, so well done. So that's another thing you've got to understand is sometimes you will deploy perfectly, you'll play perfectly, your rolls will be on average, and then you'll still lose. You're not always going to win those games because your opponent might have deployed a little bit better, rolled a little bit better, played a little bit better, and they'll just beat you. You've just got to accept that. But it's nice to get feedback, and it's good to get feedback if you have done the right things, because sometimes you think, fuck, I lost. I must have done something wrong. But if you haven't, a good teacher will tell you that you haven't done anything wrong. It just didn't pan out.
And that's a big thing. Like when I play a game here, like even with my regulars at this point, we still sit down and go, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? What could I have done better? And it's great getting that feedback from your opponents, even if you're like one of my regulars here plays Tyranids and Genestealer Cult, and I have, like, besides knowing what stuff does when it's on the table, I have no idea how it functions or whatnot. But like, still, like, him giving me feedback and me giving him feedback, like, this is what you could have done. My unit's weaknesses here. It all adds up.
Yeah, I think the post game chat is a massive part of becoming a better player, because you can discuss what the different interactions that have happened on the table, the different units that are operating like in the game and that sort of thing. So you've got to have those discussions after your game. You can sort of pack up and all that sort of thing, but if you want to get better, you've got to have those discussions, and you've got to accept when you've done the right and the wrong thing in that space.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, that's the thing about also being a player is you've got to be able to learn that you're not going to win every game. If you're one of those players who go, I have to win, otherwise I'm going to throw a big hissy fit, well, no one's going to play. And I know the other issue that can happen is because we would be classed as regional, we're not going to be able to play every army there is.
No.
You might only have 5 people. Someone will go, no, I'm dedicated to Space Marines. That's all. You might have 3 of them, and the other 2 could be, Chaos or
well, yeah.
And then you go to the tournament scenes in the capital cities, and like when I played CanCon, so I brought my AOS. I went up against the Slash army. Never gone up against them. Yeah. And the best way to learn how these armies work is by playing against them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a lot of the time losing against them too, because you learn where you can and can't afford to be when you play those games. So
and there's only there's only so much that you can learn from, like, even if you're super competitive and pour over every codex or every army book as it comes out, there's so much that paper stats can tell you. Like there's a lot of stuff that actually comes into its own once it's on the table that the paper didn't fully reveal to you. So
yeah, and like you can take, if you've got like, you might have and I guess that the Iron Hand situation we had just not long ago is a perfect example of this. You can have a really average player playing an excellent army and they're still not going to do well, but you can take a really good player using an average army and they're going to do better than the person that's got the better army because they're a better player. You've got to, models and stats and all that only do so much, but if you play it wrong, you're still not going to win.
Yeah.
So, I think that, you've just got to play enough games and be invested in learning how to get better. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen in 3 games.
And don't be afraid to become a rules lawyer. Like that's where I find myself improving a lot is, okay, I can do like this thing here that will let me hold that objective, for example, or something like that. Like don't be afraid to don't be become one of those guys that no one doesn't want, that people dislike playing, but don't be afraid to educate yourself like one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But, and that comes down to, knowing the setting too. Because if you know that, like, me and the guys will say, hey, listen, do you want to have a game this weekend? Right, are we going to play Maelstrom, regular book, or are we going to play an ITC game? And, if we say, yeah, we're going to play ITC, we know that we're going to bring decent lists and we're going to bring tough lists. If we just want to meet up for a casual game, you know the setting in which you're going to be in. If we were playing an ITC game, I'd be a little bit more strict on what I'd allow to slide compared to just like a Maelstrom game where we're playing cards. You know what I mean? Like there's games that you play just because you want to have a game, you want to roll some dice, and then there's games that you play because you want to improve as a player. And that's by playing more of the more competitive games. So that's definitely where those rule lawyer situations come in. You play those games and you go, right, oh no, if it takes us an extra 45 minutes or an hour to finish this game, we're going to get all the rules right and we're going to make sure that we play it right so that we know for next time if we get it right or wrong. And it makes us better.
And someone just mentioned in the chat a positive attitude. Honestly, that is the biggest thing. Like especially when you're on the learning end as well. Like, yes, okay, I just had 20 gene stealers charge across the board, turn one, kill a unit, wrap another, and I can't fall back and can't shoot them off the board. Okay, I've probably lost this game, right? So what did you do wrong there? Learn from the mistake. Don't go, oh, this game's fucking shit. Like,
yeah. Well, I had a situation when we were doing prep games to come down where I deployed. I thought I deployed really good, and then we had one of the ruins in the middle of the table was Magic Box. So my mate's infantry that was inside could charge out, but I couldn't overwatch or like shoot him as he was coming out. So I didn't realize that. I thought that I deployed right to, I had all my smasher guns and my SAGs and all that lined up to get all the different fire lanes as they come across the board. And then he utilized this Magic Box and got like a 6-inch charge off on me, and it completely screwed my whole center line. And I'd never had that happen before. And I was like, well, that's shit. But next time I definitely won't be deploying so close to Magic Box. You know what I mean? So you've got to make mistakes to learn, and that's not just in 40K, but that's in all things. But that's how you get better as a player. You go, right, that definitely is not going to happen next time. And if you remember it, then happy days.
Yeah, and having your opponent with the positive attitude to, point out mistakes and like that. Like the amount of games in tournaments when it's a one-sided game, I'm like, you should actually do that because it's going to get you more. And then the opponent's like, you're right there.
I'll do exactly the same thing. I think that's definitely, you get some people that approach the game, like we said, with that win at all costs attitude, and it's positive in their eyes, but it's not positive for the outcome of the game. You know what I mean? It's
not positive for the hobby.
No,
right?
That's exactly right. You should, in a competitive environment, you want to win, but at the end of the day, it's about meeting new people, getting better at the game. If you win a couple of games in the process, that's awesome, and you've got to have the right attitude going into that sort of thing, because if you do get stomped and you have the wrong attitude, then you probably won't come back. So
I would consider myself a very competitive player, and a lot of my regulars that I play against too would as well. And even with us being competitive players, even going up to like a more regional tournament that we still go, if we win 2 out of the 5 games, then we're calling the weekend a win. Like,
yeah, I well, Sean knows from last year I was pretty crook on Sunday, so I would it was a win for me just to turn up on the Sunday. So that's my outlook for tournaments. Like I love going, I love building up a list on the way towards the coming into the tournament. I like, focusing my mind on a single idea and practicing the army. That for me is the most rewarding part, like getting a bunch of, models painted and that sort of thing. So I really pushed myself for Emperor's Hammer. I got all those Grot tanks painted. I was 100% ready. I finished my last SAG yesterday before, obviously we had all the announcements, that sort of thing. So that's what I love about, it encourages you to, you want to turn up with your, your best shoes in a way. You sort of want to turn up and be, you want to perform and you want to do a good job, but you also want to have fun. So.
Yep, absolutely. No, 100%.
Because at the end of the day, we're moving many $1,000s of plastic models and rolling dice as grown men. Like,
seriously. Like,
yeah, let's have some perspective in life, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that some people definitely take it too seriously, and you just need to chill out, take a step back, and realize that you're probably a 30-plus-year-old man, and you're moving plastic on a table with another 30-plus-year-old man. So, we're just all a bunch of nerds at the end of the day that we're having a good time together. So let's just let's just accept it and just get around it and have fun. So
that's it. Yeah. All right. So we'll probably 15 minutes. We'll close this off. But
yeah.
So, what are your guys' plan with the coronavirus? Are you guys going to still play games with your mates and all that, or are you just going to try and focus on painting? What's your plans for the next couple of months?
Glasgow. I go to work on Wednesday, but I know that when I get back the following Wednesday, I'll be going to pick him up. I think the main thing people have to understand is that these measures have been put in place to keep everybody safe. So, and the sooner that we adhere to those regulations, the sooner that it can all sort of go back to normal. So, although I'd like to say, I'm going to continue playing games and that, I think that, in perspective of the whole thing, I think that it's probably a good idea for people just to, paint your models at home and, do stuff on your own until, everything sort of settles down. Because at the end of the day, if you go out, you might just inadvertently touch something that somebody else comes along a day later and touches as well, and then all of a sudden you've infected or potentially hurt somebody that you don't even know. That like my grandmother's down in New South Wales. She's old. I'd hate for her to go to the shops because she needs bread and touch something that somebody that's being inconsiderate has touched, and then she becomes sick. So I think that we all sort of need to take that on board and go, yep, let's just as a hobbyist, I definitely have a bunch of unpainted miniatures, so let's just sit back and attack those and, let everybody come good before we go and, have games, that sort of thing. So for me, I'm just going to tackle my pile of unpainted models and, try and stay on top of, there's enough content online to be able to watch battle reports and see the new stuff that's coming out without having to put it into practice myself. So.
Aiden, you're a bit different. You got a few blokes in the house who play 40k. So
I mean, it's a house of 4, and every single one plays. So my games won't be stopping. My grey backlog may or may not get caught up. Well, it won't get caught up. I have that much grey to catch up on, but the backlog might take a dent. Who knows? I might even get around and actually start doing up YouTube videos and that, especially about like the tournament conversation that we just had before, because I would really like I love seeing new faces at tournaments and meeting new people, and with Gladstone getting the Nextra shop having what little stock it has, the amount of guys, well, the amount of people in general I've seen in there both looking and buying models that I haven't seen at the club ever is phenomenal. So more exposure is great for a hobby that I've been doing for 18 plus years at this point. So
nice.
So what is, because Myles, I don't know whether who's your president or if you guys have a chairman or whoever's after your club, but what's your guys' plan to try and get your club coming back? So I think 6 months down the track, and then
I think that we're sort of going to have a situation where it's going to be sort of like it's going to be the similar to with like the NRL, the AFL, that sort of thing. People are going to sort of be isolating themselves from each other, and then once it's all cleared up and people are allowed to do those things again and interact and come into social settings again, I think that you're going to see I don't think it's going to be very hard to get people to come out of their shells and be a part of this, because everybody's having to just be on their own. And like a lot of people that play games are introvert by nature and that sort of thing. I think that we're definitely going to see people go, right, I've been sitting in my home for the last 3 or 4 months. I'm ready to get out and socialize and play some games. So we're definitely going to be postponing the Cane City Cup to the back end of the year, but potentially having some soft entry events, maybe a doubles event or something like that. Just something to let people sort of get back into the swing of playing in groups of people again and that sort of thing. I don't think we'll have much issue with it, but I definitely think that a few little soft events would be nice, and then come back into the back end of the year and go, righto, now we've had all these soft events, everything's cleared up and everybody's okay. We'll come into that then. But in town, Tony runs the critical miniatures in town, and he has the war room out the back. There's never a shortage of people playing games there. So we're pretty lucky in that he supports the community really good, and he always runs slow grows. He always runs that sort of thing to get people involved, get new players involved. So we don't really have to do a whole lot from the standpoint of the guys that run the Cane City Cup. We run it separate to to Tony's the Critical Miniatures group. So Tony supports us when we run our events, but he's the main driving force that sets up little programs and games for people that are at the entry level, and we sort of come in and go, righto, well, he doesn't really have the knowledge of the game or the time to set up a tournament, or a competitive event, sorry. So that's where we sort of come in as the competitive players and go, righto, we've got the sort of expertise and the time and to organize it, while he does the brick and mortar feet on the ground sort of stuff.
Yep. Oh, that's good. Yeah, well, I think with Gladstone won't have any issues, Aiden? I think everyone will just flock.
Well, the Legion's so big in Star Wars right now, and 40K's been on the downward slope in Gladstone since 8. So the Gladstone guys who still play, once it's cleared up, we will be back at heading to tournaments and stuff like that. Be that for 40K, for Sigma, for Malifaux, for Drop Zone. We travel a lot. We enjoy playing in tournaments. We enjoy playing games with guys that we don't play every afternoon or every weekend. So yeah, you'll definitely see us around, especially if you're somewhat local to Gladstone, 4 or 5 hours or so. We will 100% travel for that.
The moment that we're able to go to tournaments again, I guarantee you'll see a bunch of us go. Whether it's whether we end up holding one first, whether you guys hold one first, we'll definitely be there. And at the moment that we can get out there and go to a tournament setting, then we're there. So.
I think the problem at the end of the year might be there's too many tournaments going on, right? Which for a rural group would be fantastic for us to be able to go every other weekend. We could be traveling for a tournament like the Brisbane guys would be, except just in Brisbane. That would be phenomenal for us as a rural section. So
yeah,
that's good. Yeah, because what I'm hoping to do is not only paint a lot of grey stuff. I'm doing some Warcry, so hopefully we'll get into a bit of Warcry when everything's fixed and all that. Still got tournaments planned, just on the back burner there. And would like to try and do a few more of these videos. So get some of the guys, other guys from Mackay who would like to come on and talk about their experiences. Even Rocky blokes and all that. Try and get them to talk to other people. Because I can understand if you're trapped in your house, especially if you're just confined, that's where you got to be, or it's just work then house. If you're not able to socialise with some more people, it can help some people.
Yeah, absolutely. Give them a bit of an outlet, somewhere they can sort of have a chat, figure out, just discuss some ideas that they have, different opinions on the way the 40K is going. Like, I feel like we've had a fairly productive chat, and I think that there's definitely people out there that have, got their own opinions to voice as well.
Yeah, and the best thing is the system that I'm using. It's free, so it's not costing me anything to run this. It's just time, and
Yep.
I'm happy to always talk to people. And if you can't even join us in a live stream, you can watch it later. There's comments
Yep.
on the side here, so if you don't want to
Yep.
actually talk and have your face there, you can actually just at least put your comments down on the side. So
Yep.
So this is something I want to try and push for us.
And going back to that and the introducing people to tournaments and that, like getting more people, because us guys, as I mentioned, us guys and guys travel a bit, but generally it's us guys and guys traveling. Like it would be awesome to see people from like Mackay going to a Bundy event or stuff like that. Like just growing the Central Queensland tournament community would be awesome. So
yeah, I think definitely when 7th was out, I think that definitely it pretty much killed 40K in Mackay. Like we used to have that. We had Magwats every year, and that was a fairly decent sized event. I know that a lot of guys used to really look forward to that, and that's sort of what we're trying to do again with the Cane City Cup, is try and bring back, because we're sort of like not like a midpoint, but you talk about, you got Townsville, Emerald, you got Rocky and Gladstone, we're sort of like a middle point. So, we, one of my hobby goals this year was to attend 2 to 3 like competitive events. So obviously that's been, nipped in the bud with what's going on, but, definitely
2020.
Yeah, definitely our intention is to travel more often, and we're definitely interested in traveling more often, and once everything clears up and we can get to some events. I know that by then I'll definitely be tonguing for an event. I'll be ready to get out there and have a crack and a few beers. So
well, that's good. That's exactly what we want to hear. Well,
I remember last year you gave me that real concerned look when we went to the bar at 10 o'clock, and you were like, "Oh, just take it easy, boys." And we're like, "Hey, we're right, mate. We know what's going on." And then we didn't stop until like nearly 4 a.m. So we were pretty good. Yeah, it was the second day was rough. I'll say.
Look, just roll more 6s than your opponent, and doesn't matter how many beers you drunk.
That's why I like to play Orcs. If I roll high numbers, it's good. If I roll bad numbers, it's bad, and it's easy to figure out.
What you need is a D6 for Orcs, and 5 and 6 is green, and everything else is just red. So you don't even need like numbers; it's just color coordinated for you.
I've got Orc dice that have the like a war symbol on the 6, so I just know I'm like, if I see that, I'm good. If I see that, happy
nice.
Nice. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Myles, for coming on.
No worries.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks, Aiden, for joining me again.
It's all good. I had fun.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'll put out a post probably later or sometime during the week if anyone wants to do these videos with me. We'll try and pump a few more out. Like I said, it's going to be a long and slow few months, I think.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it was a very rough Sunday morning for you boys, I think. Adam Wilson's just...
Yeah, well, not going to lie, I think that I don't think I started to really get hungover till maybe about 10 o'clock once the alcohol started to wear off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it got real bad.
Your first drink.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Look, the solution to avoiding the hangover is just to keep drinking. Then there is no hangover.
I thought I was pretty good up until, I woke up and had a shower and I went, oh, I think I'm going to have some trouble getting downstairs here. And yeah, the first game was a write-off, and then second game I was too hungover to even do anything. So, but that's what tournament's about. We're not all drunks, but a few beers always softens the blow when you lose in every game. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Max. Well, we'll call it a night.
Too easy.
We'll see all of you later.
Yep.
Later, everyone.
Righto. See ya.